Well, we started at the front of the car and we opened the bonnet to find a beautiful, very low mileage L28 ET motor in my newly inherited 280ZX. So, to start with, place some fan belt pulleys, fan belts, and the water pump, which is inside the fan clutch itself. So first we need to remove the radiator shroud, and then I'll get the fan out and see if I have to remove the radiator as well, which is a likely possibility at this stage. So we'll get into it. Now here's stage 2, where I've got to remove the fan. I've just undone some bolts, which I'll zoom in on. These little bolts here I touch with my thumb. Undo these to remove the fan, and undone the top hose. I remove that from the top of the thermostat, which you can't see well on this camera. There it is. Now I remove that from the thermostat, and I can just simply now pull the fan up, and straight out where the top hose has been removed. And that behind there is the water pump. And that's where that's located, on the front of the car. Now to remove the belts, the fan belts from the vehicle, I have adjusted this screw here is a tensioner adjuster, and now that I've loosened that in an anti-clockwise direction, I've subsequently removed the nut holding the pulley on, so I can remove the pulley. I've loosened tension on the belt, so I can now remove that, remove the pulley safely, and I've also removed the washers that were covering on that, and I've put those up here on the front of the car, and that was the nut removed, and the pulley cover as well, and that pulley cover was on the rear. Now I can just remove the belt like so, and put it up on the front with the other belt that I've already just removed. There's 2 belts there. Now I've just moved over to the other side of the vehicle, and to access the water pump I've also got to remove a fan belt putting tension on that, and that can be accessed via the alternator, which is down in here. There's the alternator belt, and when I remove that belt, what I do is I can do that by releasing tension from the alternator tensioner arm, which is down in here. I'll just zoom in on that. There it is. Now that bolt just here, that applies when that's released pressure. You can move this up and down, and therefore you can move the alternator, which is in here, forward to release pressure on the belt, and that way you can access the remainder of the alternator to remove. And then once pressure is released off that, you can remove the water pump. Now stage 3, I can now I've moved the alternator and taken pressure off the belt. I can now access the belt and remove it. Now there's no pressure on there. I'll put that up there with the other 3 belts I've got now, all removed. And now the pressure is removed, I can also take off the water pump cover and release access to the water pump. Now I'll remove 5 bolts apparently to get that out and put the new one on, and I'll just see what sort of noise this makes. Yeah, a bit noisy. Too noisy for this little quiet motor. So we'll get that off, remove all these bolts with a bit of WD-40 to spray that on to loosen any adhesion. Plus, of course, where is that? I've also removed the cable from the battery just to make sure there's no effect while I was playing with that alternator to get that removed. Very important to do. So, next step. Okay, we still have progress. I've got a 10mm socket and an extension bar onto my nuts that I'm holding the water pump on. Just use a 10mm socket and two 12mm sockets for the remaining 2, holding it in place, and that's coming off quite easy. Should have the new one on in the next step. I've also loosened all of the bolts holding it in a star pattern, diagonal shape, just so to relieve any stresses that are already on the old water pump, and I'll refit the new water pump in the same star pattern so it's all evenly forced up against the block of the engine. I'm just letting the water run out. There was no need to drain the radiator, and I've just removed the water pump. It's already let a bit of water out already, so we'll see how it goes on refill. Now, here's a comparison between the old water pump and the new water pump. Now, the old water pump's got a big rattle in it, and I'll just show the difference between the water pump noise compared with the new one and compared with an old one. Is just as simple. This one, new one, it makes no rattle. Shake, shake, shake. And this one, it's got the rattle alright. So those bearings are kaput and the whole water pump needs to be replaced. Easy.